Fellas, don't drink that coffee.
You'd never guess. There was a fish in the percolator.
Showtime, everybody!
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Fish in the Percolator. I am one of your hosts, Scott Meany.
I am one of your other hosts, Matt Chorney. So, Scott, let me ask you a question, buddy. You ever study your hand?
I only study the blade.
Oh, sick!
A master of karate and friendship.
Oh, Christ, what an episode, huh, Scott?
This, I mean, look, I'm going to say this right now. You complained earlier about Dougie, and I'm done with Dougie.
Yeah, this was my threshold.
Enough Dougie.
This was my threshold. I said I'd give him 2. He's got 1 more.
I got 1 more. I mean, like, what are we going to do? Stop watching? But still,
Right.
I'm at a point where it's like, okay, it's getting a little annoying. I understand the whole Kafka-esque friggin' thing they got going on here. Ooh, Coop wakes up and no one cares about the fact that he seems to be having a stroke, and
look,
everyone's just embarrassed by him and just seems to be ignoring it. But I'm kind of done with it myself.
it was a little boring 2 weeks ago, and now it's making fun of itself. Now they're active, like, not to jump too far ahead, but now they're actually making jokes about the thing like, my God, you heartless assholes. How come nobody's calling a doctor for the man who's clearly suffered some horrible brain trauma?
There, you kind of got your answer. You were asking before, when is someone going to take this man to a hospital or whatever. At least that was kind of acknowledged. The kind officer that took a stuck Dougie to his house. I don't know how everyone keeps solving that riddle of the red door, but good work.
Well, it does keep saying the street. He knows the name of the street, and then look for the red door, which I'm sure Lynch feels is a terribly clever way to constantly get him home. But yeah, by episode, was it 6?
It's 6 now.
It's old. I'm done, and here's why: there's nobody that's replaced Cooper yet. There's nobody who is the character of Coop in the show of Twin Peaks Season 3.
I do really like the lack of structure so far. Like, I am actually enjoying it. It's been a lot of people's complaint online about this, but I love how Firewalk with Me it feels. It really does feel kind of crazy and all over the place.
Yeah, that's not that part's not my complaint, like, at all.
No, I know. Yeah, I'm not saying that this part is you complaining about that. I'm saying I do like that a lot. However, I think that they feel Dougie is a lot more clever than it actually is.
Here's something just a little extra for you listeners. More of my opinions about Mr. Lynch.
Hey now.
When he thinks he's being funny, he will ram a joke into the ground. You see the stupid things like in season 1 and 2 of Gordon not being able to hear, and this sort of shit. And where he's look, I know Dougie's a worse example, but like when he finds something is funny, no matter how much it doesn't make sense or how irritating it will be, he just runs with it. And I'm a little scared we're not going to get rid of Dougie.
I think we're getting rid of Dougie because we also later, when he finally gets home and after he has his sandwich and whatnot, he gets a brief visit from Philip Gerard, or whatever the stand-in for the man from another place is what we're calling him now.
Mm-hmm.
And he's kind of telling him, wake up. You have to wake up. Don't die. He's seeing into the Black Lodge and seeing where everyone is. So we're going to get Coop back. I'm confident of that. I do think the Dougie joke has worn out its welcome. I don't hate Dougie. Like, I could do with them extending it, or like, as long as they make progress, I don't care. But like, I am ready for progress.
I wouldn't hate Dougie if we were cutting into inner monologue of Coop, or Coop back at the lodge if he was in fact at the lodge, screaming into the void trying to get Dougie to cooperate. Like, if there was any sign that Coop was left, I think I could tolerate Dougie a lot more. But let's not get too far ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, let's not just sit here and whine about it. We all get it. I feel like at episode 6, you're beginning to reach your wit's end with Dougie, or someone must be pro Dougie, but whatever, who cares? So he looks into the lodge, he's getting the message that he has to wake up, and I guess either the lodge or your idea last episode of Coop's innate psychic abilities helps him magic his homework for work done.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure at this point now, because I've always had the long-standing theory that Coop is psychic, but then again, if he's talking to fucking spirits, I guess he kind of is in a way.
Well, your psychic theory wasn't literal psychic, it was magic, and this is magic. It works. I'll give it to you. Like, I feel like that's a fair assessment, even if you end up being off base on it. It's like, no, that's an accurate read.
Super natural intuitiveness. How's that for some words? But anyway, let's go back to the very beginning real quick, just so we can do it in order. We left off exactly where the last episode left off. Dougie is staring at that statue's feet. Cop takes him home, realizing Dougie is not in the right state of mind. Once he gets home, his wife is like, "Oh yeah, I forgot that we don't know where your car is, and I left you completely stranded like an asshole." Takes him in, and as he's taking him in, Coop is playing with the police officer's badge. Another glimmer of hope that Coop might actually remember who he is at some point. The cop notices somebody left a blank envelope on their doorstep and gave it to Dougie's wife. Do you remember Dougie's wife's name?
Janie E. It's a really fucking weird name that I will never forget that.
Should never forget
Janie
it.
E. As in Doug E. Sonny Jim. Janie E. Yeah, it's awful.
I'm calling her Jane. Yeah, I'm going to call her Jane because fuck everyone. So she takes him in, feels bad that she actually left her husband stranded at work in his current condition, makes him a sandwich, kind of assess Dougie as, all right, clearly something happened to you. I'm taking you to a doctor on your lunch break. And I immediately...
There you go. You got your stroke thing.
I immediately went, how fast till they backpedal on that happening tomorrow? Because here's the thing. The minute he sees a doctor, it's all over. The minute that man goes on record with some sort of official, it's going to get wired back to the FBI. And sure enough, she sends him off to say goodnight to Sonny Jim. And then a very, very, very angry Janie E. screams for Dougie to come downstairs because what was in the blank envelope was a bunch of pictures of him and his prostitute from the first episode.
Jade gives 2 rides.
Jade did give 2 rides, which that is probably my favorite line of this episode, man. Janie is getting real pissed off, but I will give her credit for this part now. She's clearly realized something is fucked with her husband because she can't stay mad at him when she should have every fucking right to be, but she's looking at McLaughlin just staring at his empty plate like an idiot, and she's like, what the hell are we going to do? And then before she can even finish her thought... Bookies start calling. You want to take it from here, Scotty?
Yeah, so the bookies give a call and threaten, and they want $50,000. And Janie's like, not a goddamn chance. I will meet you in the park. They walk back your doctor's visit immediately.
It was less than 5 minutes. But anyway, she does agree to meet them in the park at 12:30 the next day, or noon 30 if you talk like a 1950s idiot. She then screams at Dougie to do his homework assignment that his boss gave to him, which will be very critical in the later scenes. Then Dougie sees Mike. I'm just going to call him Mike in the red room. And Mike is warning him, you have to wake up. Do not die, which he says 3 times.
So yeah, he does he gets his homework done. He starts seeing the magic lights, same as he saw in the casino, and just starts drawing lines, stairs, ladders all over the page. It looks like complete nonsense. Mm-hmm. And we'll come back to that later. Well, not that much later. In a moment. We'll come back to it nearly instantly.
So the next day, you get to see Janie waiting, and 2 roughs, as Skinner would call them, approach her in the middle of the park. This is probably one of the best interactions I've seen between a bunch of characters in the show so far. These 2 loan sharks explain to her that it was a football game that Dougie done fucked up with.
It doesn't seem like this is Dougie's only problem.
Right, because $20,000 is not enough to plant a car bomb on somebody, which probably costs a couple thousand in and of itself.
Well, they were going to get $50,000 to be fair, but even then, it's still like, I guess. Well, either way, I mean, we get the
Yeah.
answer to that after anyway. But,
Yeah, it's still a little crazy.
Janie gives them a tough talking to,
God.
a real talking down.
God, she's the best. Yeah, JD basically in no holds barred just lets these two have it, screaming at them that she is part of the 99% at her bank that she puts what little money she has in. They would be doing cartwheels for an extra 5% over the course of 5 days. So that is what she offers them. Her first, final, and only offer is that she will pay them $25,000, and those two can go fuck off directly and never contact her or her family again. And I believe that the look of shock and respect that the two toughs give her is to acknowledge that they're okay with this transaction.
By the way, I can't remember that dude's name. The skinny guy. You know who the hell I'm talking about. He's on Justified. He was on Lost.
I don't know his name, but yeah, I do know that. Yeah.
You know his Grass, Tell Me Your Secrets. That dude.
Yes.
He's in 1,000 things. This guy always looks like the scientist from Lost. Every time I see him, it's like, all right.
To be fair, those two guys looked like street level thugs. Like that, like it worked.
I thought the other guy was fucking Johnny from Jerky Boys for a second.
He does have that fat neck every
like
guy
him.
look, doesn't he? Yeah.
He's got that like Frank Rizzo, what the fuck are you look to him.
Hey man, if it's one thing the two of them could agree though, that was one tough broad.
So whatever, Janie takes care of business. That's about her tapping out for this episode. But
I also want to note that her only paying the $25,000 leaves her and her family another $50,000 at home from winnings.
I forget how much he didn't he win like 450,000 or something like that. Who
Something
cares?
he
It was
won
a
a
shit ton
lot.
of money. It was
Yeah.
a ton of money. They have a lot of money. Interesting. I'm really. She's great in this.
Oh yeah, agreed. I thought I was going to hate the character based upon the first episode that you see her in, and complete turnaround after that transaction with those two assholes.
I like her a lot. The only time I don't like the character is when they do the really exaggerated. Go see Sonny Jim.
Mm-hmm.
Go see Dougie. How are you? Like, she like enunciates the family names to a level where it's like, okay, we get the joke. Like, enough Dougie bitching. I'm sorry.
No, I agree with you though. I don't like the Leave It to Beaver shit, and I never did.
I don't mind the Leave It to Beaver stuff. And I'm like, to be clear, I'm okay with the Dougie stuff. It just needs to come to a head. I would say on multiple viewings of the first two seasons, my feelings on Nadine warmed significantly because I'm like, I know Nadine's not a big deal, and I know it's just kind of this weird, fun side note. So on repeat viewings of the first two seasons, I don't care about Nadine. It's like, whatever, it's fun, I don't care. But when you're watching it and you have no idea if you're like, is this going to be real life from now on? Is it just always Nadine? That's where I kind of am right now with Dougie. I'm sure on repeat viewing of this, when Dougie's wrapped up in the next two episodes, I'm not going to care. But right now it feels a little awkward.
But it's made exponentially worse because Coop is the biggest of deals in Twin Peaks.
So far, he's great. Even with this character that you don't like.
Oh yeah, like
it's still, he's adorable and he's really pulling it off, and that's what sells the whole Dougie thing.
McLaughlin's nailing it. Okay, enough said
let's
about
put a
it.
fucking. You're right. My bad. I brought us back to it again. Let's bring Dougie to work.
Okay.
Dougie versus Tom Sizemore.
Battle of the century. Dougie gets stuck in an elevator again. Dougie's having fun fucking with people in the elevator again.
I think he didn't know to get off the elevator.
No, he's smiling.
He was genuinely shocked.
He's smiling, going back and forth until the doors close on either side of him. And then once that happens, Dougie gets called immediately into the boss's office. Long story short, boss man takes a look at Dougie's homework, is immediately appalled, and says, "What is this childish scribble you've done on all of this paperwork?" Dougie has a long, intense look at the boxing poster behind him, and I don't really get the tie-in with what's about to happen in this scene.
See, I think the boxing poster is like him looking at the badge on the cop and like him like realizing all these different things of like call for help, like all that kind of stuff. Like, I think that's part of him realizing I gotta fight. Like, that's what I think that
he
is.
does almost up.
I totally thought he was going to end up in a fist fight with that boss and beat the shit out of the boss.
That would have been great.
I absolutely thought that was where that
because as we all know from season 2, Fucking Coop has a mean right hook. So after a long, drawn-out scene, the facial expressions of Dougie's boss starts to change from being pissed off to a look of genuine concern into worry and then into anger.
He was just like, I can't believe Tom Sizemore is untrustworthy.
Yeah, I know.
I can't believe actor Tom Sizemore
Look at that face.
would be someone you wouldn't take
How can I not trust that face? Come on.
at their word.
Anyway.
He's in another room doing blow off a hooker's ass right at that very moment. Just looks through the window.
You know,
I can't believe I can't trust my best employee.
It does cut to him looking very worried in his office trying to see what's going on, but nothing quite as good as that. But
No.
But yeah, I mean,
No.
they never directly say, and they never directly tell you the parallels that Dougie connected. But you are to believe that Dougie has just opened up the floodgates on the things he was calling Tom Sizemore a liar for in the previous episode.
Yeah, they kind of show it, and they like kind of show the linking factor. He's sort of drawing lines between his name and other things, multiple cases. So whatever's happening is something to think about. They're an insurance company called Lucky 7, and since Janie paid off the bookies, and that doesn't seem like it's reason enough to kill somebody over in such an elaborate fashion, we cut back to Vegas to Duncan Todd, who probably works with Jim Belushi. Probably, let's assume.
Possibly. Right? I mean...
Either way, Lucky 7 could run all those casinos.
Good. Very well could be.
Whatever, there might be a connection there. Duncan Todd, the man who's afraid of his boss, gets that red block on his computer while he's reading his emails and has to open up a new file. And he looks very, very nervous about what's happening there.
So nervous, he goes to painstaking lengths to make sure his fingerprints don't touch that fucking file.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good scene, and takes us to a gentleman that the credits tell us is named Ike the Spike.
I think Ike the Spike is my new favorite character in the show.
I could go either way because I don't know if I think Ike the Spike is a little too silly. I think it might be that bridge too far for me.
It's pretty unbelievable.
It's believable in the sense where he is... God, there's no good way to say this.
There's no
proportioned,
way.
He's muscular and proportioned in a way where he can move quickly.
No, that's I understand where you're coming from.
None of this is good because it's like Hitman Agent 47 is a 9-foot tall white man with a barcode on the back of his bald head, and no one recognizes the master of disguise. Yeah. You know what? Fuck this. He's Agent 47. That's what it is.
It's the early version.
But whatever. He's a hitman. He gets a note. He gets the orders from Duncan Todd that he's to assassinate 2 people. One of those people is Dougie. Mm-hmm. Obviously, whoever hired him is not pleased that the previous hit didn't work out because the tiny gentleman also has another photo, and it's that woman we couldn't figure out exactly who the hell she was from the previous episode.
And now we never will. But
and we never shall.
A side note, and I have no idea if it's going to be important, when we first see it's Ike the Spike or Mike the Spike?
Ike the Spike. We have enough mics.
You never know with this
Mike
show.
number 3. Jesus Christ.
So Ike is shooting dice and taking numbers?
The numbers, it's a good point. like because I don't know where the hell else to fit it in here, but there's more recurring theme with numbers throughout the show. People are screaming out numbers. Mm-hmm. There's numbers on telephone posts, which of course was a big deal in Fire Walk with Me. Mm-hmm. There's been numbers in previous episodes. There's something with numbers.
Regardless, we never get to see what he's writing down in the book, but he is taking notes of the numbers he's rolling.
I think what he's writing down, he's rolling the dice and then marking down how many times it comes up, whatever the hell it is. Right. That's what it looks like it's assumed.
Right.
I don't know.
But we don't know the specifics as to what he's actually been rolling. Anyways, Ike takes out the photos, pulls out what is probably his favorite object in the whole world, and some real bad hipster music starts playing, right up until the point where Ike starts stabbing the pictures. Ike has a theme song. I don't know what the fuck they're saying in that theme song, but it seems to happen whenever Ike is It seems to go off right before Ike does. And then once Ike actually does pop his cork.
Yeah.
So
whatever. He whacks that lady and assumedly her entire office.
This is my point where this is unbelievable. Because he does it all with an ice pick.
Says a man who's never stunt played Hitman.
I mean, fair enough. That's a game, though. I mean,
I'm doing the whole thing with a screwdriver.
that's it's an ice pick. As soon as he sees her, music cuts off, and he savagely...
No, it doesn't cut off. It keeps going.
Does it keep going? Okay.
It keeps going while it gets more horrific. It's crazy.
He savagely stabs her and possibly everybody in that office to death. And then a real humor scene where Ike gives his first words, which is, "Oh no," as he realized that he played just a little too hard and bent his ice pick.
So I assume we're going to be seeing Ike the Spike again. But hey, speaking of seeing people again, let's take a trip with Albert.
In another example of what I'm sure Lynch thinks is hysterical, Albert is out to go meet up with that person where he knew where she still drinks is. As Gordon just mocks him horribly, sipping a fine glass of wine at some chateau somewhere.
Exactly.
Your tax dollars hard at work, people. Anyway.
You know what? It's late at night. He's allowed to have a goddamn drink.
Still have a job, motherfucker.
Man's fighting for our freedom.
Anyway, Albert, very pissed off because it's cold and raining, gets out of his car. And what does he scream? I've already forgot. He screams fucking somebody.
He gets out in the pouring rain with his umbrella. He's like, "Fuck you, Gene Kelly, you motherfucker."
It's great. Albert walks into a bar to meet whoever they were talking about 2 episodes ago. And me and you, Scott, were wrong. It is not the Bang Bang Bar.
Dead wrong.
It's nobody that's ever been to Twin Peaks as far as we know. This was the first part of this episode where I started to get excited because now there's some actual reveals.
We finally get to see Diane, and it's Laura Dern, which I think the dog fucking guessed that's who it was going to be when they said, like, "And we cast Laura Dern in an undescribed role." Okay, it's Diane.
Mm-hmm. You're about the 4th person this week I heard mention something like that. Like, as soon as people read her name on the casting, it's like, well, who else is she gonna fucking play? Yeah.
Because she's age appropriate to have been working with Coop 25 years ago. She's age appropriate. And come on, man, it's fucking Laura Dern. The same way Janie is a huge Lynch get, like Laura Dern, come on, she's gonna get a huge role. Like we all were saying, and it's gonna be Diane. I totally did not think they were gonna reveal Diane to be a secret person you had to go meet at a bar. I just would have assumed she still worked at the FBI. But
well, here's the thing, too. We don't know anything about Diane yet. Like the only definitive thing we know now is that she's actually a person, and it's not just what Coop called his fucking tape deck.
Yeah.
Like that's
there was a huge theory for years that like the tape recorder was just named Diane.
I like that theory. I really enjoyed that theory.
I don't know how great I feel about there being a Diane. I like Diane being a complete mystery.
Mm-hmm. Well, she still is for now.
Part of me always wanted to know what Diane was, but this is part of me that always was worried about the Showtime series of like giving us answers to things. But that is also not a complaint about this Showtime series because don't worry, they gave us enough. I am not like, oh, they ruined all the questions. Like, no, they gave me more questions. This is a fire walk with me situation where I'm very happy with the questions they've given us.
So far, on episode 6, I am very faithful that they can make the character of Diane be good and not disappointing.
Agreed. Fully agreed. Like, this is not a rip on that. It's just a matter of I feel 50-50 on where I want to go with this right now.
All right, that's all you get for that scene because it ends right there. Yeah, you know Diane is a person. And the end for now.
She's got one hell of a wig.
She does have one hell of a wig.
All right, so that's Diane. Taking us back to the original series. Let's go all the fucking way back to Twin Peaks, back to the sheriff's station, and catch up with Hawk, who finally found out what he lost that was related to his heritage.
Apparently his penis. He was taking a piss.
It was his penis.
It was his penis the entire time.
You know what? I'm not even acknowledging the coin now. Never mind. It was his penis led him to the door.
Hawk's finishing up in the bathroom, washing his hands, and for some reason pulls out, I've always called them buffalo nickels, but I don't know if that's bad. Is that what they're actually called?
Well, I mean, it's an Indian head coin as well, so there's no good name for it.
Whatever. Anyways, after washing his hands, Hawk pulls out one of those nickels with an Indian face and the buffalo on the tail side and drops it, and it goes sprawling underneath one of the stalls. As Hawk goes in to pick it up because he is a frugal man and will not let 5 cents go.
I could not think of that the whole time.
I will never
Hawk.
touch money if it falls on a public bathroom floor. Yeah, not 5 cents. Hawk's a better man than either of us, so he goes for it. When he realizes that the coin has a Native American's face on it, all of a sudden the lights click on that, like, oh shit, perhaps the log lady was being more literal than I thought. The lights go on in Hawk's head as he looks at the bathroom stall door that has a Native American face on it for its logo from the manufacturing company, and realizes that the door is partially separated and broken at the top. Now, I have some theories, and maybe you can correct me, or maybe you could add to these theories, Scott. It's the same stall that Mike lost his shit and was kicking down the door to escape when he couldn't do his drugs in time.
I think you're almost certainly right.
I'm getting ahead of myself. Hawk rips apart the door. Chad comes in, and I have now done a complete 180 on Chad. I used to like Chad based upon the pilot episode. Chad is the biggest asshole in this show.
No, you love this guy. This is the guy you identify with. This is your favorite guy in Twin Peaks. This is your dude, you fucking monster.
Thank you for telling me which guy I identify with, Scott.
No, you said the words. Go listen to the episode.
He had a good point in the first episode. He also has a good point at this point right now where he asks, yo, did you get the sheriff's permission to tear apart the bathroom? And Hawk, being the true hero that he is, in kind words tells him, go fuck off, Chad. The men are working in here. Anyway, Hawk breaks open the door and finds a bunch of letters inside that door. Who knows what they say? Who knows how long they've been in there? But clearly, that is what he missed all this time.
Definitely, you're almost certainly correct that it was the time when Philip Gerard was losing it in there.
It could also possibly be Leland Palmer, maybe?
I don't know that they brought him to the bathroom. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just trying to think of, like...
I mean, logically, they had to have because he was in the prison for a while. And
right.
The lawyer. Whatever. The whole thing's flawed.
It is
flawed. Why does the lightsaber only go yay high?
The Force. Duh.
It's your answer for everything.
Thank you. Yeah, like it's a weird throwback, and it makes me kind of want to go back and watch the original 2 series. Be like, was anyone in the bathroom for any prolonged scene where somebody like on camera might have slipped something in there? But I can't think of anything offhand.
God, I hope it's the judge.
That would be great.
That guy's got to be long dead by now, unfortunately.
I mean, what if all of this is a red herring? Like, what if it's love letters from Andy to Lucy and the bunnies are really what it is he was missing?
I can see that. You know what? All joking aside, I can see that shit happening because, like, the Hawk scenes have been pretty comical so far. I could see that happening as a goof, and he's like, it's not that either. And then it turns out to be the bunnies.
That'd be awesome.
I could totally see it happening. But unfortunately, we have to get to Chad, that D-bag.
Oh, Chad is a fucking horrible human being.
I mean, it's a Sheriff Truman story, but it's a Chad asshole moment. Truman's wife comes in, is berating him once again and kind of making him look henpecked in front of the whole office. And he kind of like caringly takes her out or whatever. And whatever, Chad gives her some guff, the same kind of guff that we were giving her last episode. Except it turns out that new Sheriff Truman and wife had a son that committed suicide because he couldn't handle being a soldier. To quote Chad. I mean, I'm not doing the weepy voice, but I'm quoting Chad.
Something tells me Chad's never actually spent the day in the service.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and throw that out there, too. Yeah, that seems like an accurate depiction. Whatever. Look, I mean, point here is fuck Chad.
Yeah, I think that like the entire point of the scene, the entire point is to answer A, why Sheriff Truman wouldn't just leave his wife when she's clearly kind of off her nut. Like this episode in particular, she's not just angry and fed up with her husband-wife. She's borderlining like complete psychotic breakdown mode at this over what should be a relatively minor thing. And the entire scene is to make you understand, oh, there's been some tragedy in this new sheriff's life. And sounds kind of semi-recent tragedy as well. And also, Chad don't like him because he's a fucking asshole, which makes me wonder why he works there.
Listen, maybe Chad's a crack shot, or maybe Chad's just a damn good detective. You know, like, you got to work with D-bags sometimes. It's just what happens.
You're gonna hate this comment, but do you think Chad becomes the Guy Gardner of this group, where he's just the asshole of the group, but might actually come through and find out he's got a heart of gold in the end?
To be honest, I wasn't going to say it out loud, but I 100% believe that Chad will have a moment where he saves everyone.
You think the asshole has a redeeming moment? Maybe.
I think he has a redeeming moment. I'm assuming he does. But like, I was purposely going to make it like, we'll find out if I get surprised. But I'm like, nah, I bet they're setting one up for him. Or this is Lynch. Maybe he'll get a fucking random bullet in the head, like mid-scene.
Bobby is going to be the second cop Bobby puts in the ground in this show.
So let's step back in with our Richard, I guess, the potential Richard and Linda connection. Maybe. Who knows? Could have something here.
It's possible.
So I'm going with it right now that, fuck it, this is the Richard, right? So let's say it. Either way, he's meeting up with a dude named Red. The Red guy is played by Balthazar Getty. But more importantly, you might remember him from the very first episode of the show when we got our quick first glimpse of James. There was the other dude staring at Shelley. That was him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I know. Like, hard. There's so many characters. It's so hard to keep together.
That's weird. Okay. So are we setting James up to be another fucking stooge for some asshole in this show again?
I don't know. We haven't seen James since then. Like, I wonder if James could have been a cameo.
I hope James has walked off the set and is not coming back, to be completely honest.
I wouldn't mind having a quick tap back on James and seeing him with Donna. I mean, I don't know who you're getting to play Donna at this point, but I wouldn't mind a quick like tap back to him. I don't need James to be a main character, but I didn't hate James with the veracity that you did. Although I will admit, season 2's biggest problem, everyone says it's Nadine, and it is not. It is James.
100% James.
Like, James's wild ride is the worst part of season 2.
I just want to fix cars and live my life. Anyway.
So, Red and Richard, it's the first meeting. I want to say this is a Matthew McConaughey stunt double.
Oh, God.
Face-off. Like it's...
Both of them.
I mean, you could make a strong argument for the other guy being kind of like a weird walk-in McConaughey hybrid. So we got Red, who's this new weird, large criminal figure, and he's kind of taking Richard, who we saw last episode, I guess succeeding in raping all those girls.
I guess.
Whatever.
I don't know.
Richard Horn, somehow connected to the Horn family. We still don't have an answer. But he's meeting up with his new boss, Red, who doesn't think very highly of him.
And why should he?
Especially following that last statement. I guess you're right. But so Red's got, I think you pointed this out, he's got like an Elvis dance kind of karate thing. Like, am I right?
It opens up with him asking, have you ever studied your hands? Which is a idiot Westerner's ideal, like, that's a kung fu quote. He seems to be doing some weird martial arts in the same way Elvis Presley.
So I think you're right about the kung fu thing. I think you're correct. What I took it as, they introduced the scene with Richard being high on whatever mythical drug they're going to have him go drive cross country and deal.
Chinese designer drugs, I believe, is what was mentioned in the previous episode.
It's the Bad Boys 2 version of ecstasy that was killing all the kids. That's what they're driving. But whatever. So he's on some kind of drug, and the first thing he says is like, do you ever study your hands or whatever? Which I always take as it's the first thing that assholes say about taking hallucinogens, like, oh, you just look at your hands all day or whatever. That's what I took it as. I thought it was a drug reference, but I think your kung fu thing is more on the ball.
Well, here's the thing, like, and the scene is kind of cool because even though you're seeing it through nobody's actual perspective, you can't tell if you're seeing it through the Horn Boy's perspective, because he just took a whole bunch of drugs. He is flying high. And Red starts pulling some coin trick shit that is physically impossible.
Yeah, Red either has magical powers or it's the drugs, and we are seeing this through Richard's eyes. But it could go either way. But in Twin Peaks, I'm going to bet magic.
It probably, yeah. I bet magic like immediately, and I actually thought for a second, holy shit, is this who they got to replace David Bowie?
The only thing I think about that is the possibility that it's magic, which I'm taking as fact at this moment, makes me wonder, I don't know, another lodge type person. Because remember in the beginning when Bob Coop was talking with that whole gathering of people that were just doing dirt, but I thought it was taking place in the cabin from Firewalk with Me. Maybe this is connected. Maybe Bob Coop is connected to a lodge-centric crime ring in a weird way.
We do know there's a bunch of other spirits that come in and out of the lodge that have not been featured in the show yet. It's been mentioned, particularly in Firewalk with Me. And all we know is that the man from another place says they all have to come back. Maybe Bob ain't the only one who doesn't want back in, you know?
Yep.
But anyway, he flips a coin that flips in the air for way too long. Another coin magically appears in, what's-his-name's mouth. Richard's mouth.
That's why I thought it was drug time. That's what made me... The impossible time it was in the air made me think it was drug time.
But then it literally fell out and he grabs it a second later. And all of this is to intimidate Richard. And Red tells him, basically, don't fuck with me. If you mess up this deal, I am going to saw off your head and eat your brains. And I don't think Red meant that anything but literally.
So do you believe that Red is actually Eddie Brock, the comic book Venom? Like, do we believe that Venom is in Twin Peaks?
He could very well been that black mass that literally ate the brains of those two kids in the fucking pilot episode is what I thought when he mentioned that thing.
Listen, the Venom thing's not possible, but you're right about that. Who the hell knows? He could be the thing that escaped and has been leading.
They had their brains scooped out like that. Like that's how those two kids in New York died. Anyways, Red drops some hints that he actually knows about the town of Twin Peaks. He mentions a drop-off place for Richard to go, and Richard's shocked that he knows the code name for this drop-off place, asks if he's ever been around the town. Richard then starts shit-talking the town, and that's when Red starts to fuck with him. Did you notice that it's not until Richard's being an asshole about Twin Peaks that Red gets a little in his fucking face?
I'll rewatch it, but I kind of thought he was being a jerk off to begin with. Like, I kind of feel like the drugs would have put him in a bad place, but I guess why would you take the drugs in front of this menacing dude unless you were pointing at gunpoint, and he seemed pretty into it? So
he was at gunpoint. There was a very large man with a very large gun behind both of them.
That's true.
Well, that's the thing. Richard's obviously working for somebody else, and he's making the deal, because if he's going to take a sample, it's because he wants to know the shit's real, you know? So we will see exactly who he works for, maybe later. Who knows?
So I guess that you're right, though. He does know of Twin Peaks, so we could pull that through right over to our favorite place in Twin Peaks, the Double R. So we're at the diner. Hey, man, I don't know how else to describe this, but...
Horrible. Horrible is the word you're looking for.
Heidi's back. Yeah. I mean, like... So, I mean, you always thought, like, Heidi appeared in the first episode, and kind of vanished. So you were always just like, what the fuck happened to that? It was like they either gave up on the joke or she got fired or something.
Deported.
Because it always looked like it was just Norma and Shelley that manned that whole place, and then the cook. But that's really it. Nope. Apparently Heidi's been working there for like 25 years. So that's where they are.
Heidi makes that scene unbearable. Like,
oh, come on. I thought it was I thought it was cute in its way.
Her laughter is so off timing and so off. She literally starts laughing before the lady's finished with a couple of her sentences, just like this horrible, I'm humoring you because you're some poor lady that gives us a lot of business, which they mention at the end of this scene.
No, I mean, I agree with that, but I also think they genuinely like that woman. They weren't like, I'm humoring you.
I agree, but that laugh is the most obnoxious and humoring laugh I've ever fucking heard anybody make.
I agree with you that it's an irritating laugh. I don't agree with you in the sense that I do think there are people that just do that because they think it's polite.
Are they actors? Could you not do better? What the fuck? Oh, it was garbage.
I thought Heidi was cute. Fair enough.
All we're setting up is that there's a regular at the Double R who will be very important in a few minutes. And she just sets up that she's leaving and walking back to maybe her place of work or wherever she's going, but she's meeting a friend. She orders 2 coffees and leaves.
So as we step out of the Double R,
Mm-hmm.
So we'll cut over to a trailer park with Twin Peaks favorite Carl Rodd, played by America's own Harry Dean Stanton. And if you don't know Harry Dean Stanton, good Lord, the man's IMDb page is amazing and you'll love every goddamn thing he's in. The man's a treasure. But we get to see his old character from Fire Walk With Me again. I want to say Carl softened quite a bit.
In Fire Walk With Me, he was quite the asshole, wasn't he?
He was a complete dick. I mean, part of that could be attributed to Chet Desmond catching him before he was ready to answer any calls ever. Because if you remember, his door was like, yo, don't open this goddamn door before 10 a.m. or something like that. Whatever.
Also, to be fair, there were fucking demon spirits running all up and down that old fucking trailer park.
What I have heard, and I will do my due diligence and read this, there's a book out right now by Mark Frost, Secret History of Twin Peaks. Apparently, Carl is covered heavily in it and has gone through some shit. I kind of never really know how I feel about reading the extraneous material before going through it. It's going to a video game thing. It's like when Gears of War or Halo expect you to have read books and comics to understand what the fuck is going on in those games.
Yeah, no, it should only be it should only improve the experience, not be necessary for it. I agree with you on that.
And I don't know that it is necessary for it. So I'm kind of two minds on it where I'm just like, I don't know. Do I want to read this before I finish the show? But I think enough people have been writing online about what a big deal Carl is in that I'm going to read it and find out.
Okay.
We shall see. Some shit happened.
Seeing ghosts now. But,
And I think we have our first glimpse into who the Linda of Richard and Linda might be. So when his buddy's getting in the car with him in the beginning of that scene, he gets in and he goes like, oh, how's Linda doing? She just got that new electric wheelchair. And that's kind of the extent of it. We don't know if that's the Linda. A lot of people have multiple, a lot of people share the same first name on this show.
Well, we know she's a veteran. I don't know if that plays into anything in this because he says fucking war, when he talks about the wheelchair and her needing it. I mean, other than that, we don't really know much about Linda except she's got a husband. And
whatever, that's it. But we could have our Richard, we could have our Linda. So maybe that's a thing. Really need to rewatch these when we get a goddamn second and see what these numbers are doing. I'm sure, you know what? I should just check the goddamn Reddit. I'm sure lunatics already have this.
Oh yeah, I'm sure this is.
I'm sure they already figured it out. Like, nah, it's a number code. It's this.
It says drink your Ovaltine.
Jesus. So anyway, whatever. So Carl goes into town, into Twin Peaks, which obviously the trailer park is close to Twin Peaks. He takes a ride into town all the time. And he ends up not too far away from the Double R, and he's just sitting in the park kind of enjoying himself. At the same time, not too far off the road, Pie Lady is on her way back to the school where she works. Meanwhile,
the most idiotic game of cat and mouse is being played ever.
Richard is high off his ass on whatever magic drug he's on, and just speeding down the street, flying just right open. Like you can see this thing coming a mile away, and you're obviously supposed to. And there's a mother and child that Carl is watching while he's sitting on a park bench. And the mother's chasing the child. And it's like, tee, we're having a,
If you can't see how this is going to end 10 minutes before it happens, then you ain't been paying attention kind of scene.
Exactly. Carl smiles, which is like, that's a big thing. Like the softening of Carl seems like a huge deal. Like I don't want to gloss over that. Like that's him finding a moment of beauty in life and stepping away from that trailer park seems important. Especially since Carl's gone through some changes, which I guess we'll get to.
Yeah, I was going to say is I think it's made even more evident because Carl is enjoying that moment, but that's the middle of a sandwich of Carl looking to the sky in kind of a worrying look, and then after the mother and son run by, reforming back, looking to the sky in a worrying look. And when we see through Carl's eyes, we see that Carl is seeing distortion in the trees and the sky that he is looking in.
Carl's looking up at the sky in the same way Hawk looked up at the area of the entrance to the Black Lodge. Same exact kind of faraway glance going on.
And it doesn't quite look like he can see it the way Hawk can, because Hawk flat out saw the red. He sees some sort of distortion, and he can smell it on the wind that something bad is about to happen.
And then something does. Kid gets run down. I don't know how to word that any more delicately.
Richard, doing the thing you should never, ever do, especially when you're riding dirty, just decides, 4 cars in front of me had a red light. Fuck this. I'm angry that man called me a kid. So let's do 90 miles per hour through the middle of a suburban crossroad, and nails a fucking 10-year-old as he's trying to cross the street. Kid went under the wheels. In what is probably the most shocking and violent display we've ever seen in Twin Peaks. Like, even more so than the shit with Laura, this was real visceral.
You know, like in a movie when you know someone's going to get hit by a car, like, yeah, I know what's happening, backing up slowly into a street, and I know I'll never get hit by a car. Like, right as they get hit by the car. It was that level of you're watching a comedy movie or a Final Destination, same thing.
I was going to say Final Destination or Bride of Chucky. Either ones have dramatic splatter effects with a Mack truck.
Both basically comedies.
Yeah.
Anyone who thinks Final Destination wasn't kidding is wrong. You know the kid's dead because Carl looks over and he sees the Gorbandoja like fly up to the fucking sky. Like, you get to see a yellow creamed corn colored distortion fly up like the kid's spirit. And it takes another hard look at a telephone pole, making that not the same sound, but a very similar sound to what we heard in Fire Walk with Me.
It's the Frost Lynch Productions electric sound.
Or the one you were hearing over when they were looking at Laura Palmer's body.
Yeah.
And that light was going haywire. It was like clearly like an electrical disaster.
And when he looks up at that pole, there's also a bit of that distortion, just a bit of it visually as you hear that sound, and then it fades as the sound fades. Did that kid's soul, like, or whatever it was, disappear into the sky, or did it get sucked up into the wires?
I think it disappeared in the sky.
Okay,
but what the heck? But it looked like it flew up into the sky.
Anyways, the boy's dead. He goes over to console the mother. Apparently, the whole thing with Lucy and the cell phones is just an allegory to how Lynch feels, because no one in this town has a cell phone, because nobody is calling 911.
The man is on record and being scolded by Roger Ebert for thinking watching movies on your cell phone is the worst crime you could do to cinema.
Yeah.
Which I agree with him in part, and then also think, all right, they'll calm down.
Yeah.
I'm half and half on that theory, but I don't know.
No one called 911. I thought that was pretty fucked up. But anyway, the important thing to notice is that it's Richard, right? Richard Horn?
Yes.
Is speeding away. The lady from the diner, the pie lady, which is what I'll use because I forgot her name, she sees the killer. She sees his face as he's speeding away. It's that horrible fucking Horn boy's son. I've seen him, you know, the hippie, what grows the marijuana in that compound.
We'll find out. We still don't know Richard's parents officially yet.
It's gotta be Jerry, right?
I don't know, man. They haven't introduced Audrey yet, and I think they're waiting for a big reveal on her. I wouldn't doubt it. And Audrey was, we saw her as like a hero figure in the beginning, but in the general outcome of where 1 and 2 went, but like Audrey was kind of an asshole. Like
the Horns are.
Yeah, like Audrey could have easily become a bad guy at some point. I mean, she rolled with her dad trying to bang her as a prostitute pretty well. So
she got over her heroin addiction like a champ, though. Come on, be fair.
Oh, what? Fucking a dead guy? She'll get over that. Like, yeah, like I don't know.
My mom's been fucking a dead guy for years.
I call him dad. Like, yeah, exactly. Like, I don't know.
He washes the blood off the car, and he's all pissed off that he hit the kid, because now, like, I got to imagine Red is gonna want to eat his brains for what is inevitably going to bring the FBI, like a hit and run.
I don't know. I don't think a hit and run's an FBI thing. But I will say that if he ends up with whatever, by a truck carrying mystical drugs, yeah, maybe. I don't know.
I mean, that town's been on record having a bad drug problem from Canada already 2 decades ago.
At some point, they're gonna have to tie all this stuff in.
Yeah.
Like there's always the possibility. I hearken back to this all the time of when I watched Mulholland Drive. My read on Mulholland Drive, I will always be honest about. My friend and I were watching it, and she and I came up with a theory of what was going on in Mulholland Drive that was so fucking wildly incorrect. Like wildly incorrect. It involved seances and devil people. I mean, we didn't just read this thing wrong. We read this thing wildly wrong. And the Hollywood shit was right on the surface, but we were like, nah, it's a metaphor. It can't possibly be about Hollywood. Why would Lynch make this same boring movie about how Hollywood will eat your soul kind of thing? Like, that's not a Lynch thing. Nah, I bet it's about the devil. No.
Totally a Lynch thing.
So to be fair, every episode I go like, well, we don't know yet, is because I got hit in the face with a Lynch sledgehammer so hard on Mulholland Drive that I'm always going to be gun shy from now on.
To be fair, I like your take on that fucking movie a lot more.
There's a great video by Rob Ager that kind of goes through. If you're a Lynch fan or a Kubrick fan, there's a guy named Rob Ager. He's just a quick recommendation for any listeners that are interested in diving deeper into film analysis or something like that. I think he's one of the good ones and totally worth seeing.
Well, okay.
That's neither here nor. I just think it's fun to point that out to people. Whatever. Sorry, you disagree?
No, I don't. I just got nothing to add. I'm trying to figure out how to segue because I can see your eyes.
I think we're done. What do you think? Yeah. Is there anything left? I think we're done.
No. Richard washes the blood off and then dumps the bloody rag in the middle of an open field like a moron, like the first place somebody will look. The only thing I
kind of in this world, I kind of think like, I mean, Bobby wasted that dude, and you never heard shit. Bobby wasted a cop.
That guy's still in the woods. His skeletal remains are still in the woods at Twin Peaks.
I bet him throwing that like away means nothing. Probably not a big deal. Like I wouldn't expect that to come back to haunt him in this world.
The important thing is that things are happening in this world that are starting to lead back to the town of Twin Peaks.
We're getting there.
That key to the Great Northern is theoretically on its way in the mail to go back to the Great Northern, which that should raise alarms.
It's only been a day.
I bet you once that key gets back, that's when Audrey enters the fucking show. Like, what the hell is this doing back here? I bet you there's a we haven't rented that room since he went missing sort of story.
Since 1969.
But, yeah, that thing. No one knew Hotel California was literal, but then they've never seen Twin Peaks before.
It's about devil worship.
Remember back when you were a kid and you thought it was, and it was the coolest song in the world? And then you realize, just like Mulholland Drive, no, it's about Hollywood, how shitty people are.
Yeah, but still. Anyhow, so I hope we're coming to the end of Dougie. I think we're going to get some answers on Richard and Linda. I think you're right. It's all pulling back to Twin Peaks. Hawk is finding secrets. I can't wait to find out what he saw on Sunday. I'm lukewarm on Ike the Spike. I don't feel great about that, but whatever.
Coop will kill him.
All right, so I guess that's about it for this week. We got everything here. We got numbers that we're going to have to dive into. Otherwise, that's all I got.
I got nothing much to add. At the end of this episode, we will see what happens.
All right, I've been Scott Meany. You can find me on Twitter at PureFiller. You can find me on... you can find us on YouTube. I'm probably going to break these out into their own channel at some point. But for right now, they're on the Pure Filler YouTube channel. You can probably find that by typing Fish in the Percolator and Pure Filler. Easier than me giving you a long string of awful things. And hey, special thanks to Richard Austin, who wrote a cool piece about the new season of Twin Peaks. Gave us a shout out. He's a longtime listener to the show.
Awesome.
Good egg.
Very.
Worth following on Twitter. And that's on our Facebook page and shared on the Pure Filler Twitter.
I guess you can find me on Twitter at Handsome Tony. Remember, the O in Tony is a 0. I also do a little show called Sidecast. If you're not done hearing my horrible voice, we talk about topical news shit and all sorts of comedic, horrible crap. You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, anywhere. Remember, we are Sidecast, the one about topical news subjects, not the one about fly fishing.
All right, everyone. Thanks for listening.
Bye-bye.